This is the brand new third generation Chevy Traverse. For 2024, Chevy did a full redesign on the popular 3-row SUV, changing up the exterior, the inside, the powertrains, everything from the ground up. Today we are going to do a full exterior, interior, and behind the wheel driving tour of the all-new Traverse. Without further ado, let's check it out. Let's start off with the new powertrain. The previous generation of Traverse had a V6, which, well, did not have the greatest wrap around it. It did have a lot of timing chain issues, as well as some other issues that showed up down the line on some higher model variants. And it has been replaced entirely on all trims by this 2.5 liter 4-cylinder turbo. Now, even though we're down on 2 cylinders, we're up on power and torque. 328 horsepower, 326 pound-feet of torque is what is produced out of this 2.5 liter 4-cylinder. And you can expect anywhere from about 23 miles per gallon on the front-wheel drive variant of the Traverse and around 21 miles per gallon combined on the all-wheel drive variant. 0 to 60 in just under 7 seconds. And it's got a bit of pep. It's nothing crazy. It's kind of a clunky powertrain. It's not super smooth, but that's totally fine. It's a great engine. We've seen it across a few different Chevy models now. And the transmission is Chevy's 9-speed that has been reworked to an 8-speed to fit up to this 2.5 liter. Once again, a pretty solid powertrain. Pretty healthy horsepower and torque numbers. You're gonna feel a bit of pep when you're sitting in there by yourself, but when you got it full of cargo and a family, it's not gonna feel like the crazy quick SUV like the Escalade V, for example. However, the extra pep in this Chevy step, when properly equipped, will allow it to tow up to 5,000 pounds. That's all I got for powertrain, folks. Now I wanna talk about the exterior of this thing. And wow, did the designers absolutely nail this 3-row SUV. It looks so unbelievably good. A very handsome looking SUV, great body lines. Let's start up front. My favorite part about this new redesign right off the bat is these new DRLs. These running lights look absolutely fantastic. I love kind of this tooth hook or this angular design that's right out of the middle of them. Gives it a very aggressive look on the front end. Not only that, but it just took, I feel like, the Traverse to a new level of luxury or looks. It just makes a statement going down the road compared to the last 2 generations of Traverse. It really stands out. It's got a great look to it. I love the headlights being down low with the chrome accents around them. I'm not a big fan of chrome, but they did it right on the new Traverse. It has just the right amount of accents, and of course there is opportunities and different option packages as you move your way up to get rid of that chrome and delete it. But I personally actually really like it. It makes the front end of this thing look really, really good. Do we have some active cooling for the brakes right here on the sides of the front bumper. We do have a little intercooler radiator down here with some active shutters. Looks very similar to what we find in a lot of Ford products. 360-degree camera on this model that we are showing you today, which you can purchase for just over $42,000, by the way, and it is available here in Northfield, Minnesota. If you're interested in purchasing this Traverse, be sure to check out the link down in the description below. This all-wheel drive LT is one of the cheaper all-wheel drive models that you can get, so it's kind of fun checking this out and seeing, well, what you get for around $42,000, and I must say, I'm quite impressed for the pricing and overall package that we have here. Around the side of the Traverse, we get a lot more angular of designs. Not as curvy as the previous gen, in my personal opinion. A bit more boxed off. I've actually had some people mistake this for a Tahoe, believe it or not. It looks so boxy now, and I really like that, and I think it's going after some of those larger SUVs, which I think there's going to be a majority of consumers that really enjoy. I do find the new Traverse, like I said, to have a lot more luxurious appeal than any of the previous generations. It really sticks out compared to any of them. Got another camera on the side here for that 360-degree camera. Gloss black mirror caps, doesn't make it look cheap at all. And we also have paint matched door handles with keyless entry baked right into them there. We also have these great great looking set of wheels that are on this LT model here. A little bit small in my personal opinion, but they're not bad. A set of 18s all around. You can get larger wheels as you work your way up. Even a set of 22s, if I remember correctly, on the RS model. Around back of this beautiful new Traverse, I'm a huge fan of this gloss black area across the entire rear with kind of this painted area coming inside of that taillight housing. Love these new running lights. They look fantastic. And one of my favorite parts about this entire new redesign is that rear boxy design like I was talking about. Also kind of has like the matching boxy exhaust tips that we have on the C8 Stingray, not the Z06, ZR1, but the Stingray exhaust tips. I think they're really cool. Very similar exhaust tips to what we find on there. And they just make this whole back end look super aggressive. That flat back, the square exhaust, and those taillights. Much better looking than the previous model in my opinion. This is a night and day difference, and I think that wraps up the exterior. We got some parking sensors, another backup camera back here. Without further ado, guys, I think the exterior gets 2 thumbs up. Very positive on the redesign, and we actually just started seeing our 2025 Explorers dropped at our Ford stores. Do I dare say this looks better than the new Explorer, like significantly in my opinion? Because I honestly think that it does. Just before we head inside, I wanted you guys to get a peek at the angle you're looking at it right now. You can really see a lot of the angular design going on the back of this thing from the angle you're looking at, just kind of at that back corner. Really good look. You got your gas cap right here on the driver's side with an easy fill, so you don't have a cap to actually deal with, which is very convenient. Really like the look of this thing. Without further ado, let's start off in the trunk and work our way forward on the interior. Just before I open this power lift gate, I do really wish they would have done what they did with the Tahoe, with the Suburban, and they tucked that wiper right under this little kind of rear lip on the trunk here, rather than have it exposed on the back glass. I think it was a great opportunity that they missed by tucking it under here. However, it still looks just fine where it is at here. Go ahead and press this button right here to have our power lift gate open right on up to where we can see our 3rd row right there sitting in back. We can easily fold that down by simply pulling this latch, pushing forward, and that's how we fold our 3rd row down. Quite simple. No availability in this particular trim to be able to move the 2nd row down from the rear. In the trunk back here, it's not huge by any means with all 3 rows up. It's pretty small actually. If we open up this compartment down here on the bottom, we have some additional space. And then if we lift up that compartment, it appears to be tied down here, but we should have some our spare tire hiding right under there. It's kind of roomy. It's not huge, but as we continue to fold seats down, the interior storage continues to go right on up. Not included in this model, but there is the availability to throw a sunshade in here that will lock in nicely. And there's also some other tie down points to be able to throw a cargo net. And there's also a little cigarette port to keep things charged in the rear. Too bad to see that there's not any USBs or outlets. That way we could throw a crock pot or something back here. And on some of its competitors, we do have items like that, even in our low trims. Let's go ahead and hop inside of the 3rd row. Hopping into the 3rd row of the Traverse, there's 2 different options. You can walk yourself straight through the middle of the seats or simply pull this handle here and just simply pull forward. Gives you lots of room to just easily hop right on inside of here, and then you just pull it back to sit yourself right on down. With the 2nd row of the Traverse all the way forward, I moved the seat as far forward as it can go. I have minimal leg room inside of here. I also have very minimal headroom at 5'11". My head is just barely not touching the roof. My knees are just barely not touching the seat in front of me. This is not a comfortable long-term trip car by any means for somebody, I'd say probably over 5'6", 5'7", somewhere in that range. The seat is also lower in quality than the 2 rows in front of it. I have a pretty hard seat back here, but we do have good visibility. We have this window on the side of us here and great visibility throughout the front. The back glass brings in a lot of light to make it feel not so claustrophobic. I have a spot to rest my arm right here on the corner. I have a USB Type-C to keep myself charged up, as well as a cup holder here and a cup holder right over there. You could easily fit some kids back here, but anything more than that, this is not a very usable 3rd row. Personally, if I just had a kid or 2, I would always have these seats down for additional storage. It is interesting to me as we fold the 2nd row forward, Just how many wires are so easily exposed under this seat that you could easily get your foot caught under here while getting out and honestly trip and fall out as you got out. So personally, I think Chevy could have done a slightly better job of figuring out how to make that look cleaner. Hopping inside of the second row of the Chevy Traverse, much more comfortable than the third. I have the availability to move forward and back a little bit. Even the furthest back that I go at 5'11", I don't have the most legroom in the world with where I'm comfortable as a passenger in the second row. However, it is totally doable. I do have controllable rear climate through these couple of dials right back here, as well as a few other options through this small touchscreen. We also have 2 USB-Cs and an outlet to keep ourselves charged up. Other than that, not a whole lot of stuff going on back here. We do have armrests on both sides, which is nice. A lot of plastic materials everywhere. We have some overhead vents just like we had in the third row. Some cup holders that we can reach from the passengers in front of us, or that are connected to the center console from the passengers in front of us. And a little bit of door pocket storage. Other than that, that's all that's really going on in the second row seat here. At 5'11", I have plenty of headroom. And this seat is comfortable. I could easily sit in here for a somewhat long period of time. It kind of reminds me of like a mid-range Uber second row seat, if that makes sense. Like Ubering in a just standard, cheap, mid-size SUV. Just kind of reminds me of that. There's nothing special about it, but it gets you from point A to point B somewhat comfortably. We're all wrapped up in back. Let's go ahead and hop up front where we have the most comfortable seats out of all 3 rows. A little bit more plushness and comfort compared to the other ones. We now have power seats as well. Power up, down, forward, back, recline, as well as some power lumbar. So definitely a huge step up when we hop into the driver's seat here. One of the things I'm a huge fan of in the driver's seat of the Chevy Traverse is actually this steering wheel. It is leather wrapped. It's quite thick and it feels great in the hands. Definitely makes it for a more comfortable driving experience, and it adds a little bit to the experience as well. And then the biggest change over the previous gen Traverse on the interior by far are these 2 absolutely massive Google powered screens, and they are phenomenal. The engagement is great, the look is great, the feedback is great. They are absolutely fantastic the way that these systems operate. Massive improvement over the previous gen's tech, and they look fantastic. It's very simplistic looking as well. It's not overwhelming. It looks clean, and I think they did a great job with it. A few of the things I don't like about it personally, all of the lighting controls are done through this screen. There is no dials or buttons down here. All of the lighting controls are done specifically through this screen. One of the things I do like a lot is we still have physical climate control buttons, which I think is a massive plus and needed on any vehicle with a screen of this size. So thumbs up for physical climate control buttons, thumbs down for no physical light buttons. However, the majority of the population is just going to leave it in auto all the time anyway, so it doesn't really matter that much, just kind of my personal take. We do have some selectable screen settings which change up the driving dynamic a little bit. We have some different drive modes. We have a wireless charger, USB-C, cigarette port, USB, 2 cup holders, some center storage, and some more storage, and a tunnel pass-through across the bottom for even more storage. It really is a great simplistic interior that looks fantastic, that feels great. At the same time, it feels cheap, but this is a lower trim, so what can you possibly expect? The shifter's a little interesting. It feels kind of weird how much play it has, but you kind of pull it in to go into neutral, and then you pull down or push up for drive, reverse, and tap for park. You get used to it after a little bit. However, it is still kind of interesting or cheaper feeling compared to some of the competitors. That's all I have to say about behind the wheel of the Traverse. I think let's throw this thing in drive and head down the road. Behind the wheel of the Chevy Traverse, one of the things that I actually really like is the feeling of the steering wheel itself. It's very thick. It's got a great feel to it. The leather feels quite nice and high quality. It is heated as well. Not only that, but also the screens that are in the Traverse. I like how they're kind of flat. It's somewhat angled towards the driver, but not so much that it takes away from your visibility on the exterior of the vehicle. It really is just kind of a plain and simple interior. Even with this big screen in here, it feels simplified, which I kind of enjoy while sitting behind the wheel. The seats in this trim are comfortable. They're a little bit cheap feeling. However, like I said, they are still comfortable. There's nothing necessarily special about them, but I don't think they'd really ever get old. One thing I do find kind of interesting while driving the Traverse is how loud the powertrain is. Take a listen. Just even at like, 3,000, 2,500 RPM, in that range, it's a very loud engine. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, just something that I've taken in on observation. And when we push this Traverse to its limits, it has some get up and go. It's not crazy fast by any means, but it has plenty of pep for you and the family to get to soccer practice. There is nothing crazy in there when it comes to performance by any means. That also comes down to handling around corners, driver feedback. Anything that has to do with driver engagement and the fun to drive aspect is lacking in the Traverse, but that's obviously not what it is made for whatsoever. However, when we look at its counterpart, the Ford Escape, they kind of go after that fun to drive aspect a little bit more, and I don't get to experience anything like that here in the Traverse. Let's see if the selectable drive modes help change that. As we put the Traverse into sport mode, I immediately hear a little bit more noise, so we must have a little bit of piped in sound. It does not feel as if it downshifts any faster. We do have some more dramatic steering feel. It's a bit heavier. The brakes feel ever so slightly different. However, ultimately, it doesn't feel like sport mode changes it up a whole lot. As we go around this corner here, other than tightening up steering feel, it doesn't necessarily feel all that sporty. However, the very touchy throttle response in the low rev range in sport mode does make it kind of fun, but like I said, it's still nothing compared to its competitor, the Explorer. The Traverse is very easy to drive with its fantastic visibility, all of the safety systems, and everything else combined. The Traverse feels like a very easy to drive mid-size SUV. It's roomy in here. It's super roomy. It's very comfortable. By no means does it compare to the Explorer whatsoever when it comes to a behind-the-wheel driving experience, in my opinion. The Explorer is a lot more sporty feeling. It goes after a different niche of buyer, especially with all their more sporty trims. They have a lot more sporty trims, is what I'm trying to say. However, I think the exterior look of the Traverse is more sporty looking than the Explorer. But the Explorer is a more sporty feeling driver than the Traverse, so kind of interesting there. Overall, behind the wheel, it's very easy to drive. It's very comfortable. It's just not going to go after that niche of buyer who's looking for a fun driving experience. That wraps up everything that I have to say about the all-new Chevy Traverse. It really is a great looking SUV, and Chevy did a fantastic job redesigning this. Now, here's the real question. Chevy Traverse or Ford Escape, which one is a better buy? And that's where I'd like you guys to argue down in the comments below. I'm kind of curious on what your thoughts are. The Escape is a more sporty, fun-feeling SUV, where the Traverse, for the first time in a long time, feels like it has an upward edge on tech and exterior appearance over the Escape, in my personal opinion. So which one of those is a deciding factor for you? Let me know down in the comments below. Ford Escape, Chevy Traverse, which one are you picking? I think personally, after driving the two of them and being behind the wheel of them, I think I would take a slightly higher trim of the Traverse over the Escape, in my personal opinion. And I think the Escape's great. It always has been. I just really, really like this new Traverse, and it has a great, great look to it. So if you guys are interested in purchasing this Traverse, again, there's a link down in the description below to Apple Chevrolet Northfield's page, where you can go give them a call, order your Traverse, or check out the ones that they have in inventory right now. Thank you so much for tuning into this video here at Apple Autos. Don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe to help us grow this channel and continue to provide us great informative videos to you all. Have a great rest of your day.